Billy, I got to talk to you first. On a scale between 0% and 100%, on how many 8x10s do you write sweep the leg?
Oh, I'd be like 50%. The other 50 is no mercy.
No mercy.
Yeah.
Martin, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm very good. I'm good. Happy to be here. I write 8x10s. I usually just write Billy's name on them. I don't sign my name anymore.
How you guys doing out there? You're like, welcome to the Karate Kid universe.
Yeah, this is super exciting. You know, our first couple of cons. It's exciting to be here and be here with all of you, and hopefully have a great panel.
Yeah, this is my first con I've ever been to, so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
Were you guys familiar with the Karate Kid franchise when you auditioned?
My parents are big fans, so I grew up watching the original film, and that's kind of the extent of it. I've only seen the first movie, to be honest, before I auditioned, yeah.
What about after?
I still haven't seen any of the other ones.
Before I auditioned for Cobra Kai, I had seen the first one when I was very, very young, and then I played tennis all throughout middle school and high school, and my mom would say I looked like Ralph Macchio. Because I used to wear a headband, and I had no idea what that meant. So I was like, who is this Ralph Macchio guy that is impersonating me? Why is he? And then even after auditioning for Cobra Kai, I still hadn't gotten around to seeing it again. And then after finally booking the show, our creators were like, it's probably a good idea for you to watch all of them. So I've watched 1, 2, 3. I watched the Jaden Smith Karate Kid. I remembered that one more vividly after going out for it. But now I've watched all of them. And they're great movies. It's pretty surreal to get to work with some of the actors and actresses in our show, but it's a blast.
Billy and Martin, when you guys were making the movie, did you think at that point, or even maybe right after its initial release, that it was going to be such a big deal that, like, here we are 30-some years later, and that people are still talking about that you're creating new content for it? Did you think at that time that could happen, or did you just think, oh, this is a pretty cool gig, but
Karate Kid was kind of a sleeper in the sense that it wasn't like a blockbuster as today when the movies come out and it's like it's $100 million in one weekend. Back in those days, movies stayed in the theater for a long time. Karate Kid was in the theaters for about 6 months. So it wasn't like this big super smash. It was one of these word-of-mouth movies that people told their friends and they went back and see, and it's kind of snowballed. So there was no way, I know when we were filming it and when it first came out, we could have ever projected, 3 decades into the future. And I mean, I knew it kind of, but knew we'd be doing this show at some point. But no, but you can never tell when you're doing it. For me, it was my first movie. I was a commercial actor, did like tons of milk commercials and Pepsi and Kool-Aid and all this stuff. And then Karate Kid was my first movie, and then I was just thrown in. And so it was my first time learning karate, my first film, and then the first release, it was all so huge that it didn't even happen. If nobody saw the movie, it was the biggest thing that ever happened in my life, And then it just snowballed, and it's grown, and it's been passed on through generations, and now the universe has gotten bigger, and we've moved into the next episodes of the generations of these characters and the new characters, and it's unbelievable. It's a thrill. I mean, I remember going on the audition for the movie. I could still remember when I see Ralph on the set sometimes. I'm like, remember when we first read our first scene outside of Columbia Pictures and went into audition, and still here we are. It's something really special, and it's just been a blessing, yeah.
Martin, did you ever think that a movie 30 years ago would still be relevant to this day?
Well, I remember all of us, we kept thinking we never liked the title. It was always, it sounded like a Bruce Lee title, a Bruce Lee movie. And we didn't really know. Some movies, I think it's very rare that when a movie really is going to be a hit or iconic. Everybody tries to make a blockbuster. I mean, I think the only stories I've ever heard that people knew on the set, the crew knew on the set, was like movies like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, where you just saw the chemistry between Redford and Newman, and every crew member, just knew it was going to be a hit. We didn't know. I mean, I was doing Cagney and Lacey at the time, and I had a few weeks to play, and the kid's character just sort of read like another Heavy. I had no idea it was going to be. Robert Kamen is the star, the writer. I mean, without all of his wax on, wax off, and no mercy and sweep the leg, and and the moments, the chemistry that we all had together felt good, but you never expected it to be 35 years later. I was talking about it here on a platform.
And then, so what was it like when you got that phone call? I remember I wanted to bring this up. 2 years ago, I was trying to talk to you about a YouTube show that I do, and I was like, hey, would you like to do this? And you're like, listen, I would love to talk to you, but right now I'm under strict orders. There's a project, coming out, and then 2 weeks later, the news dropped for Cobra Kai. What was it like when you got that phone call? Did you think this isn't a real thing, or were you super psyched when you heard the news?
Well, it wasn't so much news. It was the creators of the show who, the two of the guys created the Harold and Kumar franchise, and the other one created a Hot Tub Time Machine franchise. They're super talented, great. And I worked with Josh Heald, is the one that did Hot Tub, so I was in Hot Tub Time Machine. And then John and Hayden from Harold and Kumar, I knew them. And so they all sent me an email saying, we'd like to have lunch with you and pick a restaurant. So I picked something very local to me, this kind of lame Mexican restaurant I could walk to with my bare feet, which is pretty much what I did. And we showed up, and then they sat me down, and they had a project to talk about, and I thought it would be another sequel or something cool and fun. But then, they said, okay, Karate Kid, Johnny Lawrence, we're big fans. And they went through all my bad guys back to school and just one of the guys and this and that. And they said, this show is called Cobra Kai. And I mean, they just pitched it at me. And this is before it was ever set up. So all they had was the go-ahead from Sony and Overbrook, which is Will Smith's company. And then it was just the three guys coming to me saying, would you be interested in doing this? And by the end of it, and they told me what it was, and I couldn't even get my head around it because I could never imagine what they did. And I'm living out now what they pitched. I just was like, this feels good, this feels right. I feel like the Johnny in me is like waking up one crusty eye, and like, I think I see Allie in the distance, like this feels cool, it's kind of weird, is this really gonna happen? And the next step was to get Ralph Macchio. And I said, all right, so they're going to New York. I said, good luck with that, because I've talked to Ralph for many years about trying to do something, and we just couldn't find it. And they went to New York, and then Ralph called me the next day and said, I think we should talk about this. So then we all five started it, and then we went out and pitched it around town. And then that's when we got it set up with YouTube, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Are any of you familiar with the meme that was going around a couple years ago about how Johnny was actually the hero and Daniel LaRusso was the actual villain of Karate Kid? Are you guys familiar with this? Are you guys familiar with this at all?
I produced that video. Is that you're talking about? I never saw Johnny as a villain, ever. I mean, he was the antagonist in the film, but he was not the villain. That's how I played it. That's how I saw it. And so, anyway, go on. Continue. You're doing a great job.
He was never the villain. He was never the villain. He was always, for 30 years, my Karate Kid. He was always, as far as, John Kreese is just a little misunderstood. He might have been the villain. But
Like Darth Vader.
Johnny was always pure, and, he was always the Karate Kid. And we all know the story of the crane kick and all of this, and totally illegal. But that was Hollywood in those days, and but this is the real Karate Kid.
Right, all right.
All right, so it looks like
That's the real Karate Kid. Please stand up, sir. There he is, the real Karate Kid.
So it looks like we have our first audience question. How you doing?
Hi. I know the show is insanely popular, and you're responsible for me being late to work. I couldn't stop. But do you like the way they've scoped out your characters all these years later? Are there things that you would like to have your characters do that they haven't done yet?
You're talking to all of us?
Well, you two in particular.
Well, I could have never seen where they were going to take Johnny Lawrence, So they at the end of season one, they were actually halfway through season one when I was doing some of the scenes. I'm like, wow, he's so far out of my range now. Like they're just creating a new Johnny. It's the same guy, same heart, but so I'm just excited to go along for the ride, and I love what they've written. They're amazing writers, and it's the same soul, the same guy, and I get to wear the weight of all that. So I have ideas of where I'd like him to go, and he's actually kind of going there in this season. So season 3, guys, this is gonna be awesome. You're gonna dig it. We have 2 more weeks to film, and you're gonna dig it. It's my favorite so far.
The character of John Kreese was written now so much more conspiratorial. He sort of makes the character in the movies like Bambi, I mean, he's really dark now, but he's a lot of fun because they write so very well. You'll really enjoy season 3. It's very versatile, different than anything else you've seen.
Mr. Zabka, thinking about your time on How I Met Your Mother, how do you decide how much of yourself to put in a character who's ostensibly you?
Say it again.
Thinking about your time on How I Met Your Mother, how do you decide how much of your actual self to put into a character who's supposed to be you? What do you hold back? What do you...
Yeah, well, again, that's the writers creating a version of me, you know, so that was super fun. They called me up and asked me if I wanted to be a guest spot on How I Met Your Mother, and I said, sure. Then I get the script, and I play a clown, and so there's no lines. It's just in a clown. I'm like, come on, it's the safest thing. What do you need me for, you know? And at the very end, he takes his clown makeup off, and he's me at the end for Barney. And you know, I was such a fan of the show and such a fan of that cast. It was just an honor to be on it. And then at the end of that, season 8, and then they called me and said, we want to bring you back for a whole arc in season 9, which is mind-blowing. So that was just incredible. But as far as like, what I love about it is I like comedy a lot. And I don't get a chance to do too much comedy in the past. I do a lot in Cobra Kai, but that show is just a sitcom, you know. So I got to exercise that part of myself. And but I learned really fast in that room because the writers, it was an intense room, a table of, there's, you know, Neil and all the Kobe Smothers and everybody, and you know, Josh Radnor and everybody sitting around, and they all had their names, their character names, and then there's just me with Billy Zabka. I'm like, what am I doing in this room, you know? They had the cast of writers and directors around, and one thing I did was one thing I didn't do was I didn't give them any ideas. I didn't say, I think I would do this, or I think I would say that. I just shut up and let them write it and just did it, and it was really awesome. But I brought a lot of myself to that. You know, they let me exercise my fun humor side. So it was an awesome show. Thanks.
Thank you.
This one's for Billy. So over a 12-year span, you played a martial arts competitor in 4 films, the first 2 Karate Kid films and the 2 Shoot Fighter films. And in the mid-90s, those Shoot Fighter films were my Iron Eagle 1 and 2, by the way.
Sorry to hear that.
But after the original Karate Kid, I understand you trained with Pat Johnson long-term. You've had the opportunity to work with Simon Rhee for Cobra Kai, a couple of badasses. And those of you who only know Pat Johnson as the referee from Karate Kid 1 through 3, that guy trained with Chuck Norris. So this is a legitimate badass on stage. So my questions would be, what drew you to martial arts long-term? And did you yourself ever think, maybe I could do this for real and compete?
Well, after Karate Kid, I was hooked. So I went. Pat continued to train me for a while, and then I went into a school class in the Chuck Norris system, Tang Soo Do. And during sparring sessions, I learned fast that I didn't want to compete because everybody wanted to knock Johnny Lawrence out, and I'm like, dude. I was like headhunters in there, you know, and the sparring sessions weren't fun for me, you know, and I'm like, I'm not going out in the tournament unless I wear a mask, you know. They don't care about winning for points. They just wanted to knock me out, you know. So I did that for a number of years, 5. So and then did Shoot Fighters, and I got to work, you know, with Pat Johnson and an amazing cast of martial artists. Bolo Young was in that. Hakeem Alston, Chris Casamassa, who was in Mortal Kombat, like some of the world-class, Ernest Hart, some of the best guys, and Michael Bernardo, weapons champion. So I trained with all those guys and got to do that for those two movies. So I was really lucky. I mean, I didn't go through the typical school going through the belts. I was just thrown in with some of the top guys in the world that I was lucky enough to brush arms with and train with. And then I stopped for a while, and then I'd come back to it, and the show kind of ramped it back up, and now my kids are doing it. I got a 10 and a 5-year-old. They were doing Tang Soo Do for a while, and then they got bored of it, which is fine. The class I wasn't too crazy about. And now they're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is great for kids. And so actually, while I'm here at the Comic-Con, my wife's sending me videos of them wrestling and doing it. My little 5-year-old girl taking people down, getting them in choke. I'm like, there you go. Yeah. Anyway, thanks. Yeah. So martial arts is it's incredible, and everybody's doing it on the show. You learn it's not just physical stuff. It's also, you know, mental confidence. It's just everything that comes along with it. You know, I've never had a fight since I've known karate in my life. You know, I had fights in high school and all that, but it's not about that. It's an art, and it's a way of getting in touch with your body, and it's also a self-confidence and a strength. And you know, I met a lot of kids from that watched Karate Kid and Cobra Kai that trained and they were bullied in school, and karate has changed their lives, and they walk taller, they're not afraid, and there's something to it, man. So I recommend it to all kids and people, and it's never too late to start. It's never too late to start being a badass, as Johnny would say.
Thank you.
To piggyback off that, if any of you had martial arts experience prior to the filming.
Yeah, I had 2 years of Shotokan karate experience when I was pretty young, and then I did tennis for a bunch of years in high school and middle school, and then after booking Cobra Kai, we had the chance to work with Hito Koda, who's one of the original Power Rangers and a really talented guy. Any martial arts, you name it, he's a master at it. And then, more recently getting to work with Simon Rhee, best of the best, really awesome. But they're two different people, two very different styles of training. I would say Master Rhee is very much more traditional and learns the techniques, the ins and outs of martial arts, whereas Hito is very much more of an aggressive learner and kind of a tough love kind of learner. But I've really enjoyed it, and now, kind of getting into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on the side just for fun with some of the younger casts on our show, and getting to do stuff like Muay Thai. It's all very hard, though, I would say. I wouldn't say there's one martial art that I'm way better at, but just kind of getting incrementally better at a bunch of them is my goal.
These kids are incredible, though. At the end of the day, we just had we're shooting sometimes 14, 15-hour days, and Xolo and I had a day from, 6 to 8 or something silly like that. And I'm done. I'm ready to go home. I'm exhausted. And Xolo's running by in his sweats. I'm like, where are you going? He goes, I'm going to train.
Yeah, exactly.
And the energy they have and the fighting, they're amazing. I'm blown away at the style. So we learned Tang Soo-Do, which was like a traditional Korean style. This show has a lot more. It's like little jiu-jitsu, little kempo, little all different styles. And they're picking it up and they're eating it up. And Hito Koda, who's the trainer for the show he's talking about, is awesome. So it's really awesome to see. You would never believe that they didn't know any karate coming into this, or just had a little bit. So awesome. And we got to get moon fighting. That's what I always say, right?
Yeah, I don't have any martial arts experience, but I am very jealous of all the stuff that these guys get to do, and it's so cool to watch them train and work really hard for it. But we'll see. Right now, Moon's very much against the fighting. So we'll see what happens.
Say it again.
Exactly. Can't we all just get along?
How you doing?
Hi. So I was wondering, 35 years ago in the Karate Kids 1 and 2, you really didn't have a lot of screen time because, Ralph Macchio was the star and everything like that. But now with Cobra Kai, you're the one taking the lead. It's your show, I think. And so did you have to do any mental changes or kind of get ready for, or anything you had to do to get ready for that, kind of really take the show and take the lead on that?
Well, it's not that. It's just not really true. The way that the writers found a way to get into this universe that would make sense was to come through Johnny's point of view and at Johnny's eyes. But it's really, it's a monster ensemble, and that's what I love about it. The first season was really weighted to get the audience connected to Johnny and that story, and Cobra Kai opening up, the Pandora's box opening, which makes way for Kreese and for Daniel to see the red flags before they're coming, and to birth the universe. So it was kind of that was the big bang of it. But what I love of what's happening with the show now is it's just really even, and it's there's this story happening over here, and these characters and these things going on. It's really awesome. They're in the writing, and you could see how they weave this quilt blanket of themes and characters. And I think for me, I was the bad guy, and I was the guy to push the hero to win. So it probably feels like I'm a little more front and center because I was so far back. But that's more. I don't really adhere to that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, a question for Bill. One of my favorite episodes out of all of them was the road trip episode, where you got together with the old Cobra Kai gang and took the road trip, and Tommy was very much ill. And as we know, Rob passed away just recently. At the time you filmed that, did you know Rob was ill, or did you even perhaps sense something? And certainly it seemed to play into the performance once you think back upon it.
Yeah, thanks. So it's a tough question. No, he wasn't sick when we filmed it. Did you guys see season 2? Did you know what he's talking about? The motorcycle, the original Cobra Kai is coming back. Rob wasn't sick during that time. I don't know. He caught a pneumonia and it spiraled and we lost him about a month ago. But he was amazing and I'm really glad. He was super happy to come back and play that part. And that scene by the campfire we had was just like our life for 36 years. We went to Big Bear and did that. You know, he stayed at my house every summer. We have campfires and we had those talks for hours and hours. So it wasn't even acting with all those guys. So, you know, he put a stamp on it, and it's awesome. So.
Sorry, I'm really nervous. My question is for everyone. Out of all the episodes you filmed so far for Cobra Kai, which one has been your favorite?
Yeah, which episode has been your favorite?
I think probably, is it episode 9 of season 2 when it's like Moon's party that she's throwing? Is that when that happens? Because that was a lot of fun to film. We had like everybody over at Moon's house, and that was really fun.
All right, I'll go
The
next.
out of control party.
Yeah.
Well, I think my favorite episode is when I confess about who I really am and what's happened to me in that men's shelter when Billy and I sit down in the bed and we get so emotional. You know, we had such a good time bringing the history of the two characters to bedside right there. And I confess that I've been lying and all that. And for 30 years, I've just been struggling with life. And that was my favorite. I think it was episode 4 of season 2. It was just, you know, it's just so real. So much of our friendship came out, and so much of the history of the two characters came out in the work. And that's what I really like. I mean, I really am on the show for the work because I really enjoy when the character is not so conspiratorial, when he's not so dark. I like, because he's very complicated character, which you'll learn when you watch season 3. And so that's really was my favorite episode, because it was a lot of soul searching for this character that everybody deems to be the Darth Vader of the karate world, you know?
Yeah, I'd say, I forget which episode it is, but there's a scene between Billy and I in a burger shop where, you know, Miguel has just found out after the whole first season that Robbie is Johnny's son. And at first he goes to the dojo to try and, you know, question him about it, and he gets, you know, brushed off. And then finally they go out to this burger shop and he kind of shows him the hospital that Robbie was born at and opens up. And I would say that's one of my favorites. You know, although our show is very much a dramedy, there's a lot of drama and comedy, I really do love the dramatic aspects of our show. I think it does a really great job at not making it corny or super, you know, highbrow, but that scene in particular, I really love just because it felt really grounded and real, and it's not, you know, a huge extravagant fight scene, although those are amazing to film and really stressful and rewarding. It's a smaller scene that I think is a sleeper, and I really enjoyed filming it with Billy, and I think you know, we have some of those in season 1, season 2, and there are definitely some of those in season 3. So I'm excited about that.
That's one of my favorite scenes too. The whole show was that scene. I don't know what it was about that scene. It was just it landed. And my favorite episode though was episode 5 of season 3. So you're gonna have to wait to see it.
Hashtag no spoilers.
Hashtag no spoilers. Yeah. It's hard to pick a scene. It's really like a movie. It's like a 5-hour movie in a way. So it's like it's more like what part of the movie do you like in a way, because that's how it's being really even scripted. Yeah, many moments I really like.
Okay, hi. Ooh, I'm really nervous. So, in episode 10 of season 2, when the whole school fight scene, was that all just one big camera shot, or was that like split into different sections?
Yeah, so that we shot that fight over the course of 4 days, and we have one I think it's 86 seconds or some really large number. We have one shot. It's called the oneer, right? Which is basically there's no cuts. It's one guy, you know, his name's Bones. He's holding a Steadicam. And that, you know, to be quite honest, when filming it, that was the easiest fight to film. Because, you know, right away when you mess up, you start over. And I think we did it in 7 or 8 takes. But yeah, there's one scene in particular where everyone's in the hallway fighting each other. And that one was the easiest one to film. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts, so we rehearsed that fight the most. And you know, you start off with Moon saying, "Why can't we all be friends?" and end off with Stingray coming in and, you know, kicking all the Cobra Kai's butts, or all the Miyagi-Do's butts. But there was a really long weekend, I will say, and but it was rewarding. It was probably one of the most rewarding moments of the season for myself, at least, being that, you know, you have something like 18 different people who are fighting at the same time. We have Texas switches, which is where, you know, the camera moves and you switch out the real actor with the stunt double and a bunch of moving parts in it. That was one of the most rewarding moments for me, just being that I'd never really done a huge fight scene like that. Like we had the one in episode 5 of the first season in the cafeteria, and, you know, the one in the woods with Marty and Billy, but that one was a whole nother beast.
Karate training next door here. Kid getting his black belt.
Hello?
Yep, it's on.
Okay, so he kind of stole a little bit of my question there. This is actually for Miguel, the actor. Yeah, you know, when you fall from the last episode on the last season, my question is for kind of all of you. Do you guys get injured in any episode? Or the last one in a specific?
Luckily, myself, I haven't gotten injured filming. I think it's, you know, but it really is kudos to our stunt coordinator, Hito, who his number one thing is if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable doing something, then don't do it, you know? We train for weeks and, you know, hopefully weeks. Sometimes we get a little bit less than that, but really our main thing is making sure that you're comfortable doing something. And that's why, like, we have a lot of stuff that is fun, but you got to make sure that you're prepared, and that's his number one thing. So luckily, I don't think I've gotten hurt to the point where I couldn't fight. Obviously, you have, like, sometimes you'll get clipped by a punch, or sometimes you'll get punched a little bit harder than you would like in the stomach, but no, not any moments that I would deem, you know, career ending. We've had a couple of people, you know, but that really is our stunt doubles. You know, they take the really heavy blows, and that's why, you know, they make the real great cuts. But luckily, I don't think I have.
Speaking of two things, well, there's speaking of stunt guys, well, I can't tell you what happened. This year we filmed the fight scene, and one of the stunt guys had to go into a window, into a car, and went into it and broke his collarbone, and then did it 2 more times, and now he's back. Like a month later, he's back. Like, these guys are just hardcore. Like, you really got to do that. But when I did the fighting scene with Marty at the opening of season 2, I jammed my toe on his foot because we move at different speeds, and I went forward and he forgot to step back. So my toe got just jammed in, like my big toe went all the way in like that. Nobody knew it. Pain went all the way up my leg. And then my stunt guy's ready to take over, and I don't want him to do it. So I go over and sneak into the corner, and I just yank my toe out. It was like, bam, like that, and then it relieved. It was fine. And then another time I got like a pulled muscle in my groin area. And then when I tackle him into the mat, it's him, and then it's a stunt guy. And so when it's him, we do it 1 speed. And with a stunt guy, we go hard. And so he's a big dude, and I would tackle him head first and go head first into the mat. So my head would hit first, then our bodies. And we did this probably 10 times. It is just so much adrenaline going. And then about half hour later, I'm walking around, and I've got this splitting headache. I'm like dizzy. I'm like, wow, I really got a headache. I wonder what happened. You know? And yeah, I got my bell rung pretty good. So, you know, we had Mary Mauser hurt her finger last season.
So Mary last season, Peyton List, her stunt double, her name is Janelle, and she's also one of our stunt coordinators. She's like, look, Mary, on this take, it's really not that big of a deal. Don't block my foot super hard because I'm going to be kicking at you. And of course, Mary blocks it super hard, and her fingers just, I can't even do it. My fingers don't move like that. But the thing about these fights is that it's not hurting right in the moment. It's the day after. It's like a car accident. It's not right in the moment. It's the day after, the couple days after, where you're
There's
like,
lots of car accidents. There's lots of broken bones. We just don't know about it for a few
exactly.
days.
There's
Answer the question.
It's a lot of it is you're like, no, I'm ready to go, and a lot of it is a pride thing as well. We've had times where gotten the wind knocked out of me, or gotten your bell rung, like Billy's saying, and you're just like, nope, I'm ready to go. Let's go again. And then you're waking up the next morning like, oh my gosh, my neck is. You're driving and you're like, let me turn over. But yeah, we've gotten a couple people to get hurt, but nothing that can't be fixed.
Hi there. So the writing in Cobra Kai is really fantastic, and it's allowed all of your characters throughout the entire series to explore both motivations that are antagonistic and protagonistic. My question is really for the entire crew up there. What are some of the challenges or triumphs you guys have had to experience when oscillating between these antagonistic and protagonistic motivations that the writers have offered to your characters?
I think I can answer that in broad stroke, because I don't see it, and I don't think anybody does. Like, he wouldn't see himself as antagonistic. I think nobody in the show sees himself as antagonistic. I think that's kind of what's cool about the show, is everybody's kind of their own, everybody sees it through their point of view, and that's what makes it, I think people are real, it's connecting to real life. So I don't play any, when I have to call a kid a name, or, which I do this season a lot too, I don't play it as an antagonist. I play that with my whole heart and let the writers do that. So I think we're all connected to these characters and as people, and play it with all heart, and the writers are kind of moving it into how that plays against each other, juxtaposed. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think you consciously say, I'm playing, oh, now he's kind of a jerk. Oh, now he's kind of cool. Oh, now he's kind of this. I don't think you pick a side. I think you just dive into the center of it and barrel forward, and the writers are crafting all that, and then the edit and all that. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's, so I don't know. I've never, my eyes, and Johnny's never been really an antagonist. I mean, he's never been a villain. In this show, I never see him doing anything. He's definitely like a fossil, and he's a little bit de-thawing of a Neanderthal, maybe, you know what I mean, from the 80s. He's imperfect, and that's what's great about it. He's human, so, he's working himself out. I think all the characters are working themselves out. They're all on a journey to discover their best selves, and I think in that way, everybody relates to it, and it's also entertaining, and it's in the Karate Kid world, but I think that's what's special about the show, and it's not just this guy, bad guy, this guy, good guy fighting. There's a lot of dimensions and levels. Yeah.
You got to remember that despite everything you've seen in season 1 and season 2, my character, there's two things he cares about: Cobra Kai as a priority, and Billy Zabka vis-a-vis Johnny Lawrence. He thinks of him as his son, as he did in the Karate Kid movies. And everything that's transpired through season 2 is basically, it's like tough love, and Cobra Kai becomes violated. So John Kreese does something about that, because that's his primary function in life, is to maintain the integrity of Cobra Kai. So there isn't really a negative or a positive. Yeah, obviously the way he does it is somewhat, distinct. And
great word.
But it's really done from my point of view as the actor out of love, strictly out of love, and we go back and forth with Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do with the students. As you know, some join us, some join them, some come back, whatever. But I think John Kreese really loves all his students. It's just not the way we would love our children, But I do love you, Billy.
Thank you, Mark.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say Cobra Kai is, excuse me, French, a freaking awesome show. I mean, it's edgy, it has like drama, it has like everything, like all themes combined into the whole entire show. Number 2, no, I am not Mr. Miyagi from the past come to haunt you. And number 3, my question for the whole Cobra Kai cast is that aside from Cobra Kai, to get to know you as an individual actor, what are personal projects that you all look forward to or have like goals in the future?
Outside of the show?
Outside of the show, yeah. Or even like personal goals, like I like knitting.
Well, you mean like creatively, like what else to do besides the show?
Absolutely.
I don't know. First of all, I can't wait to get home to my kids and my family. So that's my next project. I'm producing, writing, and directing 2 children every day of my life. And I'm away from them when I'm doing this. So really, my project when I get home is go make up for lost time. Daddy's been gone. As far as other projects, I'm super content playing this, and I have 100% of my feet in this, and I'm not looking outside of it. And I'm always kind of present where I'm at, what I'm doing. So there'll be something else that'll circle, and if it makes sense and it doesn't interfere with other plans and my priorities, we'll do that. But right now, this is a dream. This is it. What else do you want? You know what I mean? I mean, it's like when you have something that's working so well and you get to do it at this level, you're there. And there's a great saying: the journey is the destination. Where you are right now is the destination. Make peace with that. So you don't have to achieve, so you have to get somewhere to ring the bell to did it. And that's even when things aren't good. That's even when the show isn't here. That's my philosophy. Mm-hmm. So that's my project: is get home to my kids.
Very cool.
Yeah, for me,
Marty's got a lot of movies in the works.
For me, I want to rejuvenate the Western and bring the Western back. That's very important to me with other projects. But in respect to what Billy's saying, I have a 2-year-old grandson that I spend so much time with daily back in LA because I enjoy that so much. As a grandparent, it's totally different than a father. And but you're right there with them. So, those are really my priorities. And whatever happens with the show happens with the show. I mean, we get a chance to work with wonderful young actors, and it's exciting for them to carry on all the way through and for years to come. That's sort of my plan. It's a very simple, simplistic attitude of we're very lucky to be, doing a show that started 35 years ago. It's a gift from God, and we're proud to be the recipient of it, and still go on with our lives outside.
I don't have any kids to take care of right now.
You lucky dog.
But I'm in college right now, so just trying to get some credits and finish up some school. I'd want to become a writer, so getting to work on such a wonderful show where we have writers who have done comedy, who have done drama is super important to me, and getting to hear all these stories from Billy and Marty and even some of the people my age is super important to me. So writing my own projects, that's what I'd like to do during Cobra Kai, and when Cobra Kai is finished, that's what I want to do. So those are my next steps, so working on creating my own projects.
So I'm a small town girl from North Carolina. I live on a farm, and I am going to be making the move to Los Angeles after Christmas, so that's kind of the next big step for me. I'm also a college student, so I'm kind of trying to figure out what I want to focus on in college, whether that's directing or writing or what, so I think kind of figuring that out, but also kind of taking every opportunity while I'm out in Los Angeles and seeing what it's like being out there.
All right, so this is going to be our 5-minute warning, so we just got a couple questions left. So, how you doing?
Hi. Could Billy share a story about working with Rodney Dangerfield in Madison?
Sure. Well, let's see. First of all, that was a blast to make that movie, and if I had to make another movie over again of everything I've ever done, it would be that movie, just because it was so much fun. I mean, making that movie was the same as watching it. I went to Madison, Wisconsin. I hadn't met Rodney Dangerfield yet, but I got off the airplane, got to the hotel, and got into an elevator, and he'd actually appreciate me telling this story. But I got in the elevator and went up a couple floors, and then the door opens up, and here comes Rodney Dangerfield with a robe and his hair sticking up, his eyes all red. I'm like, "Hey, Rodney," I said, "I'm Billy Zabka. I'm playing jazz." He goes, "Yeah, I know you. How you doing? How you doing?" I go, "Good." What are you doing in your robe? He goes, "Oh, I got to get to the sauna. I got to get the pot out of my lungs." You're young. You can handle it. That was the first time I met him, and then it went on from there.
All right, last question. No pressure, no pressure.
Oh, no pressure. I just have a simple request / question for the real Karate Kid. When you were getting ready for like a tournament or any physical activity, you had a kind of move that you would do, and I was just wondering if you could actually do that for us today.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I think we all can do that. Everybody stay on your feet. Let's get this done right.
Ki-eyeing?
Yeah, we're going to ki-eye. I'll let Sensei do it. Sensei lead the class.
I remember, mercy's for the weak. Hearing on the street, somebody confronts you. He is your enemy. An enemy deserves no mercy. Eight! Louder. Eight! One more time. I can't hear you. Eight! Very good. Have a nice afternoon.
All right, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.